I meant to ask you at the beginning of today's episode because I feel obligated to now. Are you part of this cabal trying to push Beto O'Rourke out of contention in the primary?
No comment. No. No,
Ooh.
not at all.
Whoa.
Where's the Perry Mason music? When
Here
you
we
need
go.
It,
What is the cabal?
Oh, it's
I actually
sort of
That's
exactly
exactly
what
what the
you'd
cabal
say.
I was on a
if you were
plane-
part of the cabal.
That is what I would say, right?
Right. Cabal?
No, I was on a plane yesterday.
What does
so
cabal
I'm
mean?
not, I'm not
I
sure.
see. Plausible deniability.
Right.
I was on a plane.
Don't launch the first attack until I'm in the air.
I was in a plane.
We rally at dawn.
Apparently, Elizabeth Brunig wrote a piece that that highlighted that Beto O'Rourke had, has taken some not great votes, but also was involved in working on a pretty predatory real estate business, I think, in Texas. And
it was also like, but I have to say, I mean, I like, it was a great piece, but it was also like the piece that someone like me would echo in the sense that I like Beto O'Rourke. I hope he runs for Senate in Texas. I don't hate the guy. It's just, it's ludicrous that people are talking about him as a contender. And if you're on the left, you have serious policy disagreements with him. I would add one addendum, and I know we've made this point before. Any conversation that's talking about a candidate that lost as a potential presidential candidate, why is Stacey Abrams not at the top of this list? In fact, I would suggest, I mean, we've talked about the pool of voters that were disenfranchised could have made up the margin she lost by. I feel comfortable calling it a stolen race. She did an incredibly impressive job. And I think especially because the people who are sort of the biggest sort of promoters of this Beto thing are the pseudo-woke performative people that are always going to go on Bernie off of like fake identity issues. It's very bizarre that they aren't embracing Stacey Abrams, who's an incredibly impressive person who should be in, I would say, VP, frankly.
I mean, I wonder
conversation.
if it's a function of Stacey Abrams not necessarily. I mean, look, people are talking about Beto O'Rourke about this way because they're being encouraged to. Right. I mean, it's not like he's sitting there like, it never even occurred to me. No, when people start talking about him as a potential candidate, it's because during the course of his campaign, a couple of people said, you're very charismatic. And he raised $30 million,
no doubt,
which is a tremendous sum for a somewhat quixotic campaign, theoretically. And he's promoting it. I don't know that Stacey Abrams is out there.
I think some of it is organic, though. I do. I don't think it's all. I think, especially in social media, when people sort of pontificate about these things, I think some of it is just.
Well, now wait. Let me ask a couple things here. And I just can't wait for the left to eat itself throughout this entire primary.
Right.
I'm really excited for where this goes, but it's no accident that Deval Patrick decided not to run this week
because of the Zach Carter piece.
No, it has nothing to do with the Zach Carter piece. It has everything to do with the Obama world saying, you're out.
We're going to clear the field.
We're going for Beto. No, I mean, not clear the field, but we're
clear
going for Beto. We're backing Beto.
Right, okay.
We're not backing you. And I think that played a major role. Because as you recall, there was a lot of talk about Obama world backing
Deval Patrick. Yes.
And suddenly he decides, I'm not running this week. It was pretty early.
Well, let me put it this way. My sense would be that the message that they got from the Obama world and that piece that came out, the timing is not coincidental.
The piece was part of it, I think.
Well, no, but wait a second. You're missing my point.
No, and also there's real issues in terms of like.
Yes, that's true.
His
but
family.
But often the way these things work, okay, is different parts of that world have different jobs to do.
Right.
One comes in and says, "Look, this
You're
is
not
probably."
saying Zach Carter is part of Obama.
No,
Yes,
but
he's part
I'm
of
not saying
Obama.
that Zach Carter's.
Nor is he affected by anyone who would be part of the Obama world saying, "Hey, you better write this piece."
No, but you write the piece because you have the information, and the information starts flowing, and it starts getting out there, and
I think the timing was interesting.
I
mean, but I don't. I think Zach writes what Zach wants to write.
No, of course, but you know how this works with spokespeople and communications people. They say, who's going to be good to write this piece? And they look at
I just don't feel like anyone who would be in that position that Zach Carter would be the person they would go to.
I don't know that was, I mean, I don't know.
Do we have Zach on the phone?
I don't know.
I'll ask him. Do you also know about the very sad, real thing when he was first governor of Massachusetts, how he almost resigned because of his wife having some very serious, anxiety and depression issues?
No, I didn't.
They've written and spoken about it publicly. So I actually also think his sense of the toll that this could take on my family, I know that's a talking point.
He made a glancing
I don't think that's total BS in his case.
No, I think there's all these factors. Genuine. I think it's all these factors. All right, but let's get back to a moment for Beto, because look, I know you're on the fence here, but let me just bring in Chris Matthews to tell you what you need to do.
Miss Matthews.
Here is Chris Matthews.
Right, here we go.
This is it really is sort of
You're David Dayen. You're part of the cabal.
We're going to look back on this in 16 months from now, like with fond.
Is the thrill is back?
Remember the Beto Wars? Remember the Beto Wars of late 2018? Here we go.
And we, the Democratic Party, have not given them an alternative.
Let's talk about presidential politics, because I'm already thinking about 2020. I know you all are, too. CNBC's reporting that Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke of Texas' team has been fielding calls from senior operatives who worked on President Barack Obama's campaign in the pivotal states of Iowa and New Hampshire. As speculation continues about a potential presidential run by Beto in 2020, one columnist at the Washington Post has already questioned whether the Democratic rising star, Beto O'Rourke, is far enough left for the party. Elizabeth Brunig writes, "We still have time to pick a politician with a bold, clear, distinctively progressive agenda and an articulate vision beyond something better than this, the literal translation of hope change campaigning. Beto's a lot like Obama, true. It's perhaps time for left-leaning Democrats to realize that may not be a good thing." Peter, I'm amazed by this. Here's a guy that has electoral power. People like him. He's got charisma like Obama. And he had somebody on the left saying he's not left enough.
Well,
explain that.
There's an amazing, wonderful blue-collar philosopher who once said, naivete in children is often charming. In adults, it's stupidity. That's political stupidity. For that person to write about antipathy towards Wall Street, oil and gas, welfare reform, those are all major issues that we need a president to deal with, not to simply scorn them and discard them. And second, I think Beto's in an incredible position, not necessarily about the presidency, but he's captured energy. And one of the failings of the Obama campaign in 2008 was that after we won, we never had a call to service. And I think Beto and his team are figuring out, where do you take all that energy?
Get people in the act. Let me go to Ashley on this.
I don't know who that was. I don't know who that was, but I have a feeling it doesn't feel like he's got his fingers on the pulse.
They just found some accountant in New Jersey. They're like, "Hey, you want to be an asshole on Chris Matthews show?"
By the way, so Trump beat Clinton in Texas by 9 points. Beto comes within, was it 2, 3?
3.
Trump lost by 2 points nationally. Democrats won in 2018 by 8 points.
Right.
It's the same swing. It's the same spread.
It's
the exact same spread.
He did not outperform.
No, he performed exactly as well as everybody
else. Right, exactly.
Yeah, but he's so inspiring, not like that boring Obama guy.
Well, you know what I noticed about those posters? Do you see it?
What?
That's those Beto posters are identical to Obama's posters in 2004.
The Viva Beto?
No.
In 2004.
Yes. The Senate poster, because I have one of those from 2004. And
it's up in your room, above your bed.
It is above my bed. I look at it every night.
On the ceiling?
Change.
It's still possible. If I move the O over here and I take out this part of the B, it's Beto. It's very similar, like just that big lettering up there at the top of the sign. But all right, well, is there more sound here? Yeah, let's keep playing it. I don't know who this guy is. It's like Mort Kondracki.
Somebody call in or write in.
Yeah,
they just took him off like the LIR or something.
In the act, let me go to Ashley on this. It seems to me that if the Democratic Party sets as a standard, you must be Bernie. In other words, an avowed socialist. I'm not knocking it, but if that's the political goal line you're setting up, if this person isn't for so-called Medicare for everybody all life, if they're not for free tuition payback, if they're not for all these social programs, if they're not for a big role for the government and the economy, then they're not Democrats. If that's the standard, you're going to knock out a lot of candidates.
Well, let's look at this, though. The DNC...
Now, pause it. Hold on. Let me just say this. I think that Elizabeth Brunig... sitting atop of where she sits, choosing who gets to be Democrats is wrong. I don't know who gave her this power, but I mean, should anybody have that power?
Probably not.
I don't even think that she all right.
If that's the standard, you're going to knock out a lot of candidates.
Well, let's look at this, though. The DNC itself was against Bernie Sanders, and they set parameters to make sure that he would not get enough support and not have the support he needed. And let's go back to superdelegates and all of that. So I do think the establishment in the Democratic Party will not allow someone too progressive to get back in.
Well, I don't know. What about the voters?
So now here's
Let's
the
talk about
interesting
winning
piece.
a game.
So you've got to
how do you beat Trump?
You've got to get to the suburban, middle-class, blue-collar voters. And they need to start thinking about that Obama-Trump flip that happened in 2016.
Blue-collar voters?
Middle-class blue-collar voters.
Wait, who are those guys?
The Westchester County folks who just go over to the car factory out in Westchester County.
They live in Briarcliff Manor. They make $500,000 a year, and they drive upstate to work in Rochester.
What? Who are the suburban middle class blue collar workers?
It's like, as he grabbed his macchiato,
There are
on
6
his
of
way
them,
to his
and
car
they're
factory
highly influential.
We have them all here on our list, and so we know that.
They're in this panel right now. This blue
I
ribbon
know
panel.
who it is. It's the Baileys. All right, let's continue on.
Middle-class blue collar.
You've got to
how do you beat Trump?
You've got to get to the suburban, middle-class, blue-collar voters, and they need to start thinking about that Obama-Trump flip that happened in 2016, that again flipped in 2018. If you do not focus on that, which they're moderate swing voters,
Their ears to
I'm not going to vote for a progressive.
I am completely.
I would vote for a Joe Biden, not a Beto
Okay,
O'Rourke.
how do you get the people in the industrial states who flip from Trump to the Democratic candidates for senator and governor in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, the whole?
I know. I totally agree. It's like she's only talking about the primary, which is one thing. But let's move on to the general
You're young.
election.
You know what they used to say back in the 60s?
What's that?
NBC, November doesn't count. The hard left would say, as long as we win the primaries, it doesn't matter. George McGovern. But that mentality's out there, Peter. It's out there now. I just saw in the paper today.
Wow.
We should definitely still be afraid of
Beto O'Rourke is
McGovern-Nixon
too much like
election in 72.
Obama. That's
At
a problem.
least 100,000
He
people
won.
in that are still alive.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Yeah. It is but this is
It's going to be McGovern.
right. This is generational. I mean, this is what has been problematic with the Democrats for a long time, is that the baby boomers still hold, because of the size of their generation, still hold too much sway over essentially the convention, the common wisdom, the conventional wisdom. And, the idea that you can draw any parallels now between George McGovern and anybody in there's no, it is.
Well, I mean, to draw a parallel with George McGovern, you have to find a candidate who is broadly seen on the anti-war left, who was hated by unions.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, who is that parallel today?
With reason, too, right? He was the one who cut the unions' power out from under them and picking who...
well, I mean, it was a little bit more complicated. Unions were strongly pro-war at that point. George Meany himself was
a little bit of an overstatement.
He was so pro-labor. He tried so hard to get the unions on his side, and they just totally
That's correct.
snubbed him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that he was anti. It's the unions were
where he
strongly against him.
bad was his reaction to it led him to later in his career do like anti-card check propaganda, which is really depressing.
But it's an interesting comparison, right? Because the things that sank McGovern back then were very, very different from the things that the centrists are saying would sink Bernie right now.
Right.
A lot of things that sunk McGovern with the socially conservative unions were things that every Democrat supports now, things known as identity politics, right? Yeah. Minority rights, gay marriage, drug laws, anti-war, etc. Whereas, and their economic policies were actually very much in line with his. And now it's the economic policies.
Amnesty, acid, abortion.
Yeah, now it's the
Bernie
economic
2020.
policies that they're saying are too left. So it's like really a bad comparison.
As long as Bernie doesn't pick a vice presidential nominee who was treated for clinical depression, I think he'll be fine.
Right. Now we should also say that that I think part of the animosity came from the commission that McGovern co-chaired that changed the way that our primaries ran. I mean, they actually created primaries as opposed to a back room where unions had a tremendous amount of power in basically picking who the nominee was.
That's true. But I'm totally bummed. I really thought that Chris Matthews was going to develop a crush on AOC and become a Democratic socialist.
She's got it.
I totally lost it.
Well,
I thought he was just going to be like, I mean, this is the problem with oligarchs.
But what's fascinating to me? Well, I guess it's not that fascinating to me. I mean, the idea that
that's a good setup.
I think it's fascinating.
Aren't we?
Is it or isn't it?
Well, I mean, I should know better at this point. Like, it should be completely boring to me.
Oh, you actually would expect better than that?
No,
from these people?
it's just I don't believe the idea that there are folks who are willing to already sort of like who think they're playing this poorly is my point. Is the forces that want a Beto are playing this poorly because they are polarizing too early. It just seems to me
too early.
It is way too early to sort of like complain about the idea that there are people who are pointing to Beto's record and saying, "Hey, this is problematic." What you should be doing is you push back on his record. You should be building him instead of.
I'll help him. There's one vote that I've seen put out there that O'Rourke voted for, some financial deregulation vote. That bill never became law. That the vote that is being pointed to is something that was just one of the many deregulatory measures that the House passed that never got through the Senate. The one that did, the deregulatory bank bill, the one big bipartisan bank deregulation bill this year, Beto voted against it. So just do that instead of presuming a cabal.
They're scared. They're scared, man.
I think actually it's funny. It's surprising to me too, because I think there's actually a lot of people like me who obviously will support Bernie over Beto because we're left. But like, I have no particular antipathy or hostility to him at all, and they're fast tracking.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
I'm talking
totally
completely
right.
from a strategic
Totally
standpoint.
Right.
This is not the time where you set this up.
Totally.
You set up this because it's not going to be helpful.
Totally.
It's not. It certainly wasn't helpful during the 2016 primaries, and those forces are not as well situated as they were then. Mm-hmm. And so it's a big mistake.
Although Beto's a better candidate than
it's
Hillary.
a big mistake.
Yes, I dislike
but my point is point is you don't want to make this about the so-called Bernie Bros versus Beto. They're doing it more than others are.
I mean, Elizabeth Brunig said already. She said we're already at that time where I forget how she. I mean, there was a couple of other things, but she's like, we're already at that time where I'm a white male magically.
Right.
Like she's like, we're not even like in the friggin' election cycle yet, and all this garbage.
My biggest
already.
problem was with Maloney. And Beto sort of coming in, I think he endorsed Maloney in the New York AG race, if I remember correctly.
Oh, Sean Patrick Maloney.
Yes.
Oh, that's a trash move.
And that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
As to what's like something's like all that low key stuff.
What makes me nervous is that it's still 2018 on the calendar, and we're already at each other's throats.
What makes me nervous is
but that's my point. It's like I think like they're escalating. I mean, I think like Neera Tanden escalated this in a useless, silly way. Do we put up
that's what she
put
does.
it back up. Put it back up. I mean, well, I understand, but somebody should there should be somebody
Well, the truth
in that
is
world who
that
says
everyone's
like, hey,
still fighting the 2016 primary.
but I felt like that stuff had sort of had
Nope. Have you been on
Everyone's
Twitter
still
lately?
fighting the
Well,
2016.
people
and
on
Neera
Twitter are
Tanden
dumb.
is on the front lines of the 2016.
Yeah, she needs to
war.
log
the war
off.
of 2016.
Yeah, she should get offline.
Maybe
It's like when Andrew Jackson in 1814 was still fighting that battle of the War of 1812. Like
He's still-
she's still fighting the War of 2016.
I know it.
She's
She
like
always will
she's
be.
like one of the people in the hills in Japan that hasn't
right,
heard that World War
exactly.
II is
World
over.
War II, yeah.
Except
In
they still- except he still
1975, they find the
Right.
guys in a cave.
Yeah, except that guy would still like be running a division
Positions,
of the
yeah,
Japanese
in a position of
military.
power.
That's the problem.
well, maybe
running propaganda
Yeah,
operations.
exactly.
if,
right.
if I may, maybe it's time for the hard left to flex its muscles a little bit and remind the people in the political class that, and in the ruling class, that the Elizabeth Bruenig option, the Bernie option, that is a nice option. People are angry, and if we don't get what we want in the electoral sphere, or even if we do, we're gonna have some widespread unrest outside of it.
Well, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen on Twitter. I don't think that's
Yeah,
a
it
place
is.
for that to.
No, certainly not. But, maybe have a wildcat strike or two. Put the fear of God in them.
I'm
Only the
all
left
in
is so
favor of
weak
wildcat
that that's
strikes.
probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's just what we're talking about here has nothing to do with people who would do a wildcat strike. It has only to do with like what the political class is doing. I mean, this is
It
just
has nothing to do with people's lives.
Yes,
I would
nothing.
argue.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, exactly.
And we
Real
just talked about
policy
we
difference.
just
Well,
talked
no.
about this bank that was doing bad credit reporting on thousands of people, and what does this have to do with
Well,
anything?
no, they
but
still
there's
view-
real policy. I mean, I just
They-
have to say, like, I would say, like, and I'm pro Bernie, whatever, but isn't it really clear that, I mean, if specifically on the issues you're talking about, I mean, I think Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are definitely the only candidates that I would absolutely trust on that.
I think
type of
Sherrod
issue.
Brown is
and
pretty good
Sherrod
on
Brown
stuff
if he
like
runs.
that, and-
Sherrod Brown, but those three.
But what I'm saying
Merkley,
is,
I think it's pretty
He's
good.
not
on,
running. I'm
Like-
talking about. a
Is he
candidate.
not?
they
I have not
still,
heard he's running. That would be interesting.
They're still trying to
Merkley
portray.
has talked about running. We have 34, to my count, Democrats that have talked about running in a
Wow.
serious way.
Jesus Christ.
They're still trying to
34.
portray
It's gonna
Bernie
be
as this like
exhausting.
hard left socialist, this extremist, and like the furthest left option that exists. When in fact he is a very moderate compromiser, as far as I'm concerned.
I'll tell you what, we should.
but
we should
I
have
think
He's
Chris
not-
But I think you
Matthews
have to
top maple
concede
syrup.
that within the context of American politics, Bernie Sanders is to the left of any candidate who people think actually has a chance of winning the nomination.
Yeah, sure.
I
But
mean-
the things he's proposing are not actually socialism. They're just common sense social democratic policies that every other country in the developed world has.
I'll
and
say one thing.
the more
that's-
they can make him look crazy, the more they drag
I
that
feel
window of
like that
possibility
They
window-
look
back
crazy
over to the
by
right.
saying he looks crazy.
Yeah, I feel
now.
like that
It
window
all
has been
backfires.
shut.
Because the play of the smart ones, and this is the difference between Obama and Clinton people. It's really subtle. Obama people get, we should pretend to be closer to that.
Right.
The Clinton people are
We're
like,
listening.
that's crazy, and he's a white supremacist.
Yeah,
'cause
Obama's
they're
people are like,
nuts.
we're listening.
Yeah, the Obama people are like, that's a really good point.
Right.
We're for like universal Medicare
Well,
actuary
this is
access.
what I find. Okay,
yeah.
so this is what I find so strange about what's going on now, and maybe it's just rogue, sort of Clintonites who are just mad about Bernie and mad about certain people.
Yes, they're
But the point that you're making is that the Obama people are going to dress Beto up
100%.
as if he's like, I'm like practically a younger Bernie.
They're gonna send
Right.
him to the Wildcat strike on his skateboard.
Right, exactly. And
How do you do, fellow leftists?
Absolutely.
And I think to the extent that Neera Tanden had a point about people being worried, I think there is a worry on the left that people are going to project onto Beto positions and a philosophy that he doesn't necessarily have.
I'm looking forward to O'Rourke getting his band together for a remake of Fight Song.
Oh my God!
David.
Don't even speak that into existence.
super
But
bad
do people
energy,
remember
bro.
at the beginning of this campaign, at the beginning of his senatorial campaign, you heard a lot of like, look, he's not as progressive as he appears.
did hear that originally.
And
He's a Texas congressman.
he's
Of course
but he's from Texas, and he's and there is a lot of sense on the left that a lot of people projected stuff onto Obama that was not there, that people did not realize that he was not an ideologue.
Boy, we haven't fallen into that trap again.
Well, I mean, what do you mean?
I mean, I feel like what you're saying, that he's sort of a blank slate.
Yeah, and people
project all your wishes and desires
and
white people.
what's happening now is I think you're getting people to say, like, look, don't project.
Right.
And,
right.
and
because that's
people are pissed.
Yeah, I don't hate Beto, but that's just my like. I actually kind of like him, but I just want to be very clear that this guy is not. If you're interested in a progressive candidate, this is not your pick.
If he becomes the eventual nominee, I wanted his liabilities to be known and articulated as being on the left.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what does it say about the Democratic Party that they even need to have a progressive caucus in the first place? Like, isn't the party supposed to be progressive?
It's a coalition party.
I mean, it's a big party. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know what else.
I would say that, in thinking about the role of the left in this next cycle, it might be wiser, rather than staking out a position of supporting one candidate above all else, might be wiser to support certain issues and demand that every candidate move toward them.
Totally. That would certainly
put us in a better position after the election, should a Democrat be elected, to continue that forward.
Absolutely.
That's what the Bernie people are doing, but people keep accusing us of having
what
this
the Green
cult
New
of
Deal's all about.
personality.
That's what the Green New Deal's all about.
But the point is, I mean, if you analyze that statement, the Bernie people are doing this.
The people who support Bernie support him not because of who he is, but because of the policies
my point
that
is,
he
like,
represents.
look at what AOC is doing on the Green New Deal. She has said, we need this particular committee because we have this crisis out there and we need to build legislation for it. And we need to go around to every member of Congress now, no matter who they are or who supported them, whatever, and said, are you going to support this Green New Deal Commission? And she's got like 20 of them already in the space, before she's a congressman, in the space of a week or two, to support it. And that seems to be, to me, to be the organizing principle.
But that's different than picking
left.
your presidential candidate.
No, it isn't. It's saying,
but literally,
we have 10 candidates here. Are you going to support? This is what was done on healthcare and without as much participation on the left, and so we got the healthcare we got. It was what was done on you build consensus and you say that this is a threshold issue.
But there are the only two roadblocks to that are, I mean, first of all, I think, of course, generically and generally that's true. And then it's like, okay.
I am generic.
No, I mean, it's true. It's, of course, you're right. But I think that, like, okay, so the thing that I keep hitting with Bernie is, like, no one is near him on those consensus issues on foreign policy. That matters to me, what your position on Brazil is, what your position on Yemen or the Iran deal is, or Israel. It matters to me. I don't think so. That's number one. He's still far ahead of the rest of them. And then number two, I think you have to decide at some point, like, do you really trust somebody's, of those relative choices, I trust Bernie just even in terms of who he'll appoint to oversee Wall Street as an example, or Warren. I trust her too, far more than I do trust Cory Booker as an example.
By the way, what Warren did in 2016 was create this idea of personnel as policy,
right?
And she pinned down.
That's great.
Clinton on who she was going to appoint.
That's great.
And tried to disqualify certain people who were in Clinton's orbit for appointments. So, I mean, there are ways to go about this that aren't just personality driven.
But I didn't say anything about personality.
But the idea is that instead of what David is suggesting is, instead of starting with the person and assessing their issues, you come up with an issue set and you push those issues and you let people fall in line, and then you start to assess, okay, have they adopted this position? Do I trust them? Now, you're also talking like we may have 9 months, 12 months, 14 months to make these people say it over and over and over in public in such a way that's like, it doesn't matter if you trust them or not. Like they're some obviously are within a certain zone, but the idea being that what makes what the Neratandans are doing now a mistake is they are forcing people to pick candidates much earlier than they should be.
Yeah, they're short-circuiting that whole process.
They're short-circuiting that whole process.
Look, I can assure
on the
you
left,
that
can happen on that
Bernie
process
Sanders
too.
comes out and he goes, I want more settlements in the West Bank, and Lula should be in jail and privatize Social Security, I will not continue to support Bernie Sanders. I mean, I think that, like, of course, I actually think a lot of people, especially, that was the sort of distinguishing marker of Bernie's campaign, was actually people being more policy oriented.
Yeah.
And I understand that I get that there's personality cults around everybody. I get it. But that's, I mean, first of all, that applies just as easily to Hillary Clinton or Beto. But if you're really seriously talking about policy, there's major differences here. And there is also a background of credibility that people have and other people don't have. I mean, this is not that really... It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, and it's not just about their platform at the moment, right? Like, we've heard everything before. We've heard so much progressive talk from so many people, from, Bill Clinton to Obama. Like, I want to see what they've done in the past. And Bernie has been bashing away at this stuff for decades. Like, we know where he stands. Versus, if like a Hillary type candidate came out and said, oh, yeah, Medicare for all is a great idea. And then you look at what they've done in the past, like, people might not trust them.
I mean, it's true. I mean, but that said, people definitely changed based upon the situation. I mean, I think Bernie is probably softer on guns than he was 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, they're really...
No, I mean, look, I know it's not your issue, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a dynamic.
Yeah, they're foreclosing on the availability to make Beto a better candidate over all this, right? By short-circuiting all this immediately. Because it's not like Matthews' complaint wasn't that people are cultists about Bernie. It was that they're doing purity tests around issues like Medicare for everybody.
Right.
Stuff, right?
Exactly.
Right. Well,
and so he's stopping this process, and that's what all these people are doing.
Right. I mean, that's why you got to focus on the issue and not make it associated with personnel at this point.
But there is going to be a certain point when you're like, okay.
Yes, I know. But in 2018, the idea is not
Sanders
the idea is not
throughout 2019.
Yeah, the idea in 2018, 2019 is not to start to apply the test. It is to create the test.
Sure.